Hello. So this is the PrismaColor Premier 72 count colored pencil set. And you can see that I made up a color chart for it of all the different colors so I can keep track of what is what. But today I want to talk about the different kinds of paper you can use and how it makes a difference to how the colored pencil slides across the paper and how it can blend on the paper. So I've got a couple of different examples of different papers here that I've printed a Hobbit house design onto. So we got regular printer paper, so this just came right out of the printer when I printed the design out. This is watercolor paper. This is a watercolor card set of Strathmore, I think, that I traced the design onto with the light table. This is mixed media paper that again I traced the design onto to try to keep things as similar as possible. And then this here is cardstock paper that I sent through the printer. So this is regular, what people use to make business cards or flyers or other kinds of things. So we got 4 different kinds of paper. And a key difference between the paper types is how smooth or toothy it is. So this is printer paper, and this is super smooth because it's meant when you send it through the printer to be able to have letters and numbers show up very crisply on it. So they want the paper to be smooth and not have a lot of texture in there, which is great for printing out spreadsheets. But in terms of being able to color this in with the colored pencil and have the colors in the colored pencil stick in the little textures to be able to layer, it's going to not work as well for something like that. The cardstock, which is this one, the cardstock is going to have a similar problem. Cardstock in general is made to be smooth so that when you print flyers or other things on it, it shows up nice and clear and you can read all the letters. But again, for something, the colored pencil, where you want it to get caught in the nooks and crannies, so the different colors you put down can layer and then blend, cardstock is not going to be ideal for doing something like that, but we'll see. And then this is mixed media paper, and I just folded it so I could make it into a card shape. And this will do much better. It is still fairly smooth, but there is some little bit of texture in there, so the colors from the colored pencil can get caught. And then this is watercolor paper, which definitely the kind that I have, this is Strathmore, does have a texture to it, so there are the nooks and crannies for the colored pencil to get caught in. And then there's all sorts of other kinds of paper out there too. There is colored pencil paper specifically that I did not happen to draw this onto. But we will see what the different styles are. I'm just looking around to see where I even put my colored pencil paper. Oh, yes. Alright, so we have colored pencil paper. So I will also, it just happens the one that I bought is a smaller size than the rest of these. But I'll also do a test on there so you can see what the colored pencil paper is like. Alright, so let's start out with regular printer paper. That's where a lot of people get started because it is very inexpensive and it is very easily available. Alright, so with regular colored pencil paper, let me just find something hard to put underneath this. I'll just put the back of this. You want to generally draw on a hard surface versus on a soft surface because that'll help the colors come off the pencil more easily. So let's just do the door area because we're not going to do the whole of all of these. But I want to give a sense of how this is going to work. Now let's do with a burnt ochre and a sienna brown. Alright, when you're doing colored pencil, you want to go in light layers, and then you want to build up the layers and then blend them, and that'll give you the best result versus bearing down very hard at the beginning. So it certainly functions to take the color of the pencil down on here. So it works as a object that you can draw onto. Let's try try to do that one a little darker. When you're doing colored pencil, you might say, well, if I go light, I can see all the little white bits, but you will blend those out later, so don't even worry about all those white bits and that sort of stuff. Think about where you want the dark parts and the light parts. Alright, so in general this works fine. It doesn't blend very well because there really isn't that much that's able to get down into the paper for the blending process. So we'll say this is fine for getting some practice in and for working on, you know, composition and color combinations and that sort of thing. But I would not use regular printer paper for more finished kinds of art pieces that you want to give to someone for a present or something like that. Take a look at Cardstock, which I believe is this one. Yeah. Alright, so this is regular cardstock that was sent through a printer. In essence, it's just a piece of thick wood paper that is just like printer paper but thicker. So it's also extremely smooth. So there's a little more texture to this because of it being thicker. Again, I'm pressing light. I'm not trying to do super hard here because the idea is to build up layers. And I just want to do this fairly quick. It gives a reasonably true version of the color. When you're blending, it's good to use a blending color that is similar to the colors you've already been using on the item. So don't just blend everything with white because that'll make darkers lighter and alter colors. If you're doing browns, it's good to blend with a brown color. If you're doing greens, it's good to blend with a green color and so on. So it does blend a little better than the printer paper does, but this is still not an ideal surface to work with colored pencils. So again, I would say if this is what you've got available, certainly practice with it and get a sense of how it all works, but then see if you can get your hands on a paper that has more weave and texture to it. So next, let's take a look at mixed media paper. This is Strathmore mixed media. So this is similar to cardstock, but also has a little bit more texture to it. So it's going to be able to hold more of the color bits out of these pencils and be able to therefore blend better. Again, when you're doing any kind of coloring, it's good to think light initially and to build up layers as you go. And I am just doing a quick test here so we get a sense of what the different kinds of papers are. But I can already feel while I'm working with this that the colors are working better into each other And I keep getting tempted to do even more with this, but the aim of this is do a quick test, not for me to actually be working on these designs. But the blending is definitely much more available here, and would give a much nicer result. Yeah, I can feel the way that it's moving across the paper that this is much gentler. Alright, so that's a even better blending result. Alright, this is watercolor paper. The same design. Alright, this is definitely much more textured than the other ones that we've gotten before. I think you could probably even see in the picture how there are white spots, which are the higher and lower spots, so the pencil is getting caught up on the ridges and doesn't go down into the depths. Now I could certainly start pushing harder to get it down into those depth areas, so it's not as if it's impossible, but it's just showcasing what the texture of the paper is like. And I really like that kind of texture when I'm drawing. I like that feel of it. So to me that is a good thing. If you really want it to be super smooth, they do have watercolor paper which is much smoother than this. So that is an option that's available to you. It's not that all watercolor paper requires this kind of texture, but I happen to really like that myself. But then when you go in here with this, then this falls into the nooks and crannies of that, and that is just so pretty to me, the way that it all merges together like that. So I really like that kind of effect, with the way that the colors slide over on top of each other and blend together. Oh, see, look, I'm just going to keep going. Nope, nope. We're just doing a test, and then I'll just blend them together here. Yes, so this blends very nicely. And I'm only doing 2 colors and 2 layers here, but you can imagine if you had a petal that had lots of different colors and layers, how it would end up being a very pretty result. Nope, nope, see, I was going to keep going. Nope, have to stop. Alright, so the watercolor paper with the texture and the nooks and crannies really helps with the blending process. And then we will do this with colored pencil paper. So we'll just do a similar kind of thing. Got the brown and the plank for the door, and then part of the next plank for the door. We're starting with very light layers that you're then going to build up. And then another aspect of that plank. What you want to be able to do with colored pencils is have these lines between the 2 colors merge and soften, so that it seems like a natural play of the light on the object. And the colored pencil paper here that we've got is doing that very nicely. It's doing that blending very softly. Yep, so colored pencil paper also works well. Alright, so it's not that I'm saying that you should never use printer paper, because if your aim is to work on different colors and see what colors work together and to work on composition and see how the layout's going to work, this will certainly do the job fine. It will help you get those kinds of ideas laid out and do your practice sketches. And the same thing with cardstock, it'll help you lay out the different ideas and get the basics done. But in terms of if you want to work on blending or on the gentle shading from one color to another, then it's definitely better to work on something that has some tooth or texture to it, because that'll let all the different colors, we only did 2 here, but imagine if you had 5 colors or 6 colors or 12 layers. You want there to be enough space in the paper for all those different colors to be held, so that then when you blend them together they merge nicely and give you the end effect that you're wanting. So the mixed media paper, the watercolor paper, and the colored pencil paper all do much better at that, And then amongst those kinds of things, in terms of which one works best for you, it really becomes a personal preference. I really like this kind of textured effect, and I like being able to get down into those nooks and crannies and have it create a texture. But some people don't like that. Some people prefer it to be smoother, so they might do better with the colored pencil paper or the mixed media paper to give a smoother surface that still lets you get some of the effects if you want to work on them. So let me know if you have any questions about the different kinds of paper that are out there and what might work well for different kinds of purposes.